Okay, so chapter 1 from your text. What is statistics? All right, so let's think about this. Let's first outline what our objectives are going to be. First, we're going to explain why knowledge of statistics is important. Why do we want to study this? 2, define statistics and provide an example of how statistics are applied. All right, we're going to dive into looking at different types of statistics, different numbers, and what these numbers are telling us. I'm going to have to put this right here so we can pick up. All right, why do we study statistics?
To make a determination of outcome, maybe.
To make a determination about outcome. What else? I'll agree with that. To infer something.
To measure data.
To measure data. All right, what I say, you want to understand statistics. And why do we study statistics? I'll simply say, because statistics are everywhere. And let me say that again, statistics are everywhere. I'm going to show here in a minute, you're using statistics right now, and you've used them today. You're using them in your lives and probably never really thought, hey, this is basic stats. But I want you to imagine right now working for one company that I will reference a lot will be Apple. And I'll just reference Apple because I glance at my iPhone. All right, but imagine that you're the product distributor. You're responsible for distribution, which means you are going to be your purchasing manager. You're going to order supplies. You're going to manufacture these iPhones. You're going to tell production how many to manufacture, and then you're going to be responsible for distributing throughout the sales pipeline. Imagine your boss tells you that's your task. How are you going to start?
Devise a plan.
How are you going to devise that plan?
Pay attention to past statistics.
Past history. What is sold in the past? The different units. Were there different variables that went into these phones that sold differently throughout the world? Did the United States put an emphasis on something that Asia did not? What's the cost of manufacturing in these? What's my desired profit? How much can I afford to risk? What happens if my units don't sell? Everything that I just mentioned is a scenario in which statistics would apply. I usually say, one thing that drives me to numbers is the absoluteness of the outcome. 2 plus 2 is 4 in Indiana. Wisconsin, what's 2 plus 2?
4.
Autumn, what's 2 plus 2 in Vietnam?
4.
What was 2 plus 2 back when your great-great-great-grandfather fought in the Revolutionary War? 4. What's going to be 2 plus 2 when my daughter grows up? 4. But if I simply say the number 4, does it have any meaning to you? Looking at the number alone, it has no meaning. But if I can start using statistics, and I heard to give meaning, through statistics, we can give meaning to these numbers and these outcomes that we're presenting. I say statistics. Think of it as a language of business. Business leaders use it. They use the numbers, and using statistical analysis, they use the outcome to tell a story. Now the danger becomes each of you are going to become the author of that story. And whatever that story is that you're telling is up to you. Think about this. How many times have you heard, switch to this phone plan and save $25? Switch your cable to us and you might save $45. Or my favorite, the average customer who comes to us for insurance coverage, we save a bundle of $300. Now, me being a firm believer in free market economies and capitalism, I like to say, let's pit Progressive and Geico, two of the largest automobile insurance companies. If Geico says that they can save $300 over Progressive, and that was true every time, would you not expect Progressive to lower their premiums if they're in direct competition? Correct. Who do you have for cable in Wisconsin?
We have Spectrum.
Spectrum, we do too. All right, so let's say Spectrum, and in our case, it was a former Time Warner.
Yeah.
Spectrum. All right, who would be a direct competitor for Spectrum? DirecTV. Let's just say AT&T. Okay, switch to the satellite and save X number of dollars. I recently moved last year. I was amazed. I tried to switch my internet, my cable, it all followed me. I had AT&T, and for that first 3 months, I think every day I received something back from Spectrum, telling me how much money they're going to save me. I'm not saying that any of these companies are lying. I'm not saying they're producing falsehoods. But I think that they're using statistics to convey the message they want to share. You know, usually I can ask if right now, 2 in Wisconsin, and of the 5 students here, so 7 students, we have 1 male. All right, real quick, what's 1 divided by 7?
What's 1 divided by 7?
Yes.
14%.
14%. Is it fair if I say 14% of Ottawa's statistical class, stats class population, Ottawa only has 14% males in their classes, in their stats classes?
No.
No.
No, it would be fair to say that there's 14% in class tonight.
Correct.
But if I still say in their stats class, and I'm going to assume there's no other stats class going on throughout Ottawa right now. But if I made that statement, only 14% of the students in Ottawa stats classes are males. That is a fair assumption. And if I went out and conveyed that message to the mass media, probably not going to be a good recruiting tool for men to come to Ottawa. Well, it might be, but we'll save that for another discussion. So, stats, again, why is it important that we use it? Before we go back any further, let's define. What is statistics? All right, well, your book will tell you statistics is the science of collecting, organizing, presenting, analyzing, and interpreting data to assist in making more effective decisions. We just said that you would use it, 1, because it's everywhere. 2, you're going to use it to increase and make more effective professional and personal decisions. 3, you've already identified in this class, even if you don't apply it, you still need to understand and know what these terms are in your workforce. Those are your 3 primary reasons of why you're going to use it. And we define it by saying, how do we arrange data in a way to make more effective decisions. When I talk about statistics being everywhere, I'm going to share some sites here. Wisconsin, you seeing the board?
Nope.
Do you have access to an internet?
Yes.
Yeah.
Type in Google Analytics. When you want to look at arguably who hires the most number of statisticians, you in the Census Bureau, I'm going to put a challenge to you here.
Government.
Who do you think controls vast amount of data out there? Want to think of who is one of the biggest hires of statisticians? We say Google. And if you go to Google Analytics, turn insights into action. Google's analytic products helped us improve engagement by 33% and click-throughs by 21% for content promotions on our homepage. This from National Geographic. Turn insights into action. I think summarizes greatly what it is we're talking about. All right, the next thing I want to show. Drag it down here. Next, if you look at a company called Domo, D-O-M-O, another company offering statistical analysis to businesses, and we'll just say to capital markets. Again, how can you take and arrange data to make more effective decisions? As a business, as an entrepreneur, as a business, do you not want to make more effective decisions? You know, I always say the world is not short of data. There's a reason why Google controls the most amount of data and they're hiring the most amount of statisticians. Okay, the world is not short of data. But again, how can you organize, collect, arrange? How can you arrange this data to tell a more effective story? Next, type in the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. All right, so BLS.gov.
Where though?
All right, so what we were saying was the BLS, Bureau of Labor Statistics. Government's going to use it to answer questions such as CPI, unemployment rate, payroll employment, average hourly earnings, PPI. Okay, these are the decisions that are going to be made on how to govern what laws and what measures need to be enacted or retracted in order to run the economy. Finally, worldometers. Watch this, like magic. Now, current world population, births this year, births today. Deaths this year, deaths today. As data is being recorded, it's being aggregated, and it's being applied here. Public health care expenditures. How many cars have been produced? How many bicycles? You know, one thing to look, net population growth. Google searches. Just tweets.
Yeah.
Some that are not quite as rosy. 26,674 people who have died of hunger today.
Wow, that's a lot.
Oh, there goes another one.
The nominal reserves. How many barrels remain? How many people with no access to safe drinking water? But yet, how much water is being consumed this year?
Money spent on illegal drugs. Woo woo.
Suicide is terrible.
And there's a lot of cigarettes being smoked as we speak.
Yes, and we keep seeing it in the illegal drugs
It might be going faster.
more quickly climbing. All right, so you'll see right there, as we say, statistics. When we talk about it being everywhere, we mean that it's everywhere. All right, so let's look at types of statistics. What's going to give you the first kind is we're going to call these descriptive statistics. Descriptive statistics are methods of organizing, summarizing, and presenting data in an informative way. When you hear the word descriptive, what do you think about? What term comes to mind? Describe. So again, how can we describe something in an informative and meaningful way? 46,837 miles of interstate highways in the country. Average person spent $103 on a Valentine's gift this year. Those are numbers of measurement, and again, when I say 103, just 103, $103 on Valentine's gift. Statistics, how did I get that? I had to take an average of how much money was spent. Measuring interstate highways. Again, they're giving some descriptions. What's the second kind? Inferential. Inferential statistics. Who can define it? Inferential, key word. Infer. What's it mean to infer?
Kind of use your information to figure that out.
Use the information you have available
Right.
to figure something out, to tell you something more. Sometimes we might not know how many miles of interstate highway exist. Or we might not know exactly that every person in America averaged out to $103 spent on Valentine's gift. we have to infer. All right, one way in which we infer is, let's think of a statistic where I'll say, and we'll work on Valentine's gifts. All right, so the average Valentine gift is $103. And this big pie here is going to reference the United States. Now, is it safe to say that every person in the United States spent $103?
No.
No. How do we know for sure?
Because I didn't get crap for Valentine's Day.
All right, think about that. If we say that the average gift was $103 in America, did we go out, whomever produced this statistic, did they go out and survey every single buyer of Valentine's gifts in America?
No.
No.
No way.
But if that's the interesting question that we have, this becomes our population. So the population is our targeted area of interest. In this case, who's buying, what's the average cost of buying Valentine's gifts? And we said we know not everyone was surveyed. So what happens is the statistician comes out here and pulls a sample. Now the sample is a subset of the population. We are going to infer, based off of our sample size, that the remaining portion of the population spent $103. Classic example of inferring. Now, is this with 100% accuracy?
No.
No. Would it not be better if we had 100% accuracy? It would be. But why don't we? Why is it not feasible? If we're interested in knowing the average money spent on Valentine's Day presents or gifts in America, why would we not just go out and survey every person who bought a gift?
Because that'd be really complicated. There's a lot of people that you'd have to survey.
A lot of people. So we say it's just simply not possible. So why don't we survey? Not possible. What's another reason? Time and money. You think of another reason.
What's it benefiting, maybe?
What it's benefiting.
Importance.
What's that?
Maybe importance.
Importance.
I don't know that it's important enough.
Well, we're thinking, why would we not do this? So priority, you're saying? Let's go, who cares? That's interesting that you say who cares, because we're going to show later on. If we're talking about Valentine's Day gifts, I mean, if you're the marketer of C's Candy or Whitman's Chocolate or Hershey or Mars, it probably is important to you. Now think about this too. We're talking Valentine's Day gifts. What if I was applying these statistics to
Get your woman a gift.
heart catheters?
Oh.
If you're going in for a heart procedure and you're having a catheter put in, you probably want to have a little more assurance that, hey, this is a good catheter. It's going to allow the passage of blood to go through my arteries. The fourth one I can put, the environment. simply could mean that we would have to destroy something or put something in danger in order to study the entire sample. And think about low populations of animals. Think of unborn babies. You know,
Think of all the trees you kill, sending out those flyers to see how much they spend on their woman on Valentine's Day.
all the trees that you would have to kill. So again, our environment or nature is going to be a reason. All right, so let's see here. Somebody give me an example of something else that you use. Populations, when one thing that you use a sample to infer something about a population.
Wouldn't like average salary of a specific job in like the United States, like a median salary?
Average salary?
Yeah, because what I make as a respiratory therapist here is completely different from what I might make as a therapist out in California, but they're still going to say the average therapist is making so much, even though I may not make that much.
Well, again, you're still going to be part of the average. Remember, not determine the average.
So what was your question again?
Can you give me another example of where you see samples being used to infer something about a population?
Being used to infer something about a population.
Correct.
Obesity.
Obesity. Be more specific.
They probably, they say so many people in the United States, like obesity statistics would have to come from a sample of people that they talk to about being obese.
How much they weigh,
Good point, good point.
how much they weigh.
BMI, like body,
BMI inferring something about the health of the nation.
or just the person in general.
Okay, now here's what was coming to my mind. I think of Nielsen TV ratings. You know, when you see an advertisement come out on TV and it says, this is the #1 watch show in America. Okay, that data come from the Nielsen TV rating. I don't have a Nielsen device in my TV. So how they know what I'm tuning into? Golf channel.
They don't.
They don't.
It's slanted, it's slanted.
Well, again, they're sending them out to enough or to a large enough population to where they feel that they're getting a good data. You know, and how big that sample size is, we'll cover more questions like this down, but you know, you want to be sure whatever, when you're pulling this sample, that it is of substantial size and organization, that it is going to, remember, we're inferring something. Our question is, what were people spending in America? What were buyers spending on Valentine's gifts? If that's truly of importance to me, I want to be sure that my sample that I'm choosing is a good sample.
Yeah, like what age bracket are you talking about?
I want to be sure that it's giving me good data.
I think older people spend more money than younger people. We're broke.
I'd say people of money probably spend. Those with higher disposable incomes spend more money. All right, types of variables. Qualitative. Give me an example of a qualitative variable. What comes to mind when you hear qualitative variable? Qualitative variables are non-numeric. hair color, gender,
Race, language.
race. All examples. What's opposite of what would be, if this is non-numeric, what do we call a numeric variable?
Quantitative.
Quantitative. So a quantitative variable, remember, a numeric description. Example. The balance in your checking account. The size of your family. In our introduction, Lindsay tells us how big her dog is. The weight of your dog. All right, so next, quantitative variables. We can break these down to two subsets. The first we'll call a discrete variable. And discrete variables contain certain values. So it's quantitative and it's discrete, certain values. Who can give me an example?
Children in the family.
Children in a family, number of bedrooms in your house. So certain values. How many hammers were sold at Home Depot? What's the second type? Continuous. And what's a continuous variable?
Ever-changing value.
So continuous variables can contain any value within a certain range. All right, think about this. The amount of pressure, air pressure in your tire. It can only be within a range of 0 when it's completely flat. There is a maximum amount of pressure you could put in that tire before it exploded. So a continuous variable could fall anywhere within that range. Anything else come to mind?
Like a healthy body weight. Like it's usually supposed to be so many percentages.
Well, we said, yeah, if you wanted to be classified as a
Like
healthy BMI, then yes, I would say you would do that.
A legal speed limit.
All right, so to summarize, we said variables. How many types of variables are there, broadly? Qualitative. Quantitative. under quantitative, they can be either discrete or continuous. Four levels of measurement. All right, so this was a good way of summarizing this. And we're going to talk about what's the first level? Nominal. All right, nominal level measurements. Classified into categories and cannot be arranged in any particular order. Examples: eye color, gender, religious affiliation, two, ordinal, ordinal level of measurements or data arranged in some order, but the differences between data values cannot be determined and are meaningless. All right, look, gives you an example of during a taste test of 4 soft drinks, Mellow Yellow was ranked number 1. Sprite number 2, 7-Up 3, and Orange Crush 4. In this example, we know that consumers prefer Sprite more. So Sprite number 1. Mellow Yellow number 1. And they prefer Orange Crush number 4. So out of that ranking, Mellow Yellow and Crush. But how much more did they prefer Mellow Yellow over Crush? We just know when there was asked to rank, one came up on top, one came on the bottom. But we do not know the values, or we cannot determine any value of how much more it's up there. Interval. Interval level, similar to ordinal, but with the additional property that meaningful amounts of differences between data values can be determined. So we'll summarize this real quick. Eye color, we said was an example. Ranking without meaning. Intervals, so we're going to say it's arranged in an order, but the order does have meaning to us. Let's think about the temperature. You know, right away, if I say that it is 100 degrees outside, do I have to tell you that it's hot? No. I'm going to assume hot is 100 degrees is hot to everyone here. I tell you it's 0 outside. Are you going to wear a coat? I don't have to tell you to wear a coat. 4. Fourth one. A ratio. So ratio levels of measurement. The interval level with an inherent 0 starting point. And differences with ratios are meaningful. Okay, so when I just said that the average Valentine's gift was $103, first reaction I got was, wow. I didn't even have to say that that was a lot or little income. You drew reference to that. You know that the least amount, and I heard somebody say, I got nothing. So there's your inherent zero. So you know that this is 103 times or $103 more than that zero value. Any questions? All right. Let's take a quick break.